Hey everyone, it is Grant Winsauer, and I'm without my co-host today because he woke up not feeling well, and health always comes first. So I'm gonna be recording by myself today. I'm gonna give you my reaction, or give you my thoughts on the Bears and 49ers game today. I'm also going to go into some recent reports that have surfaced about potential head coach option Ben Johnson. Um, and I'm also going to give you some stat predictions for the game against the 49ers. So let's get into that. The Bears take on the 49ers on Sunday at 3:45 or 3:25 in San Francisco. Usually the 49ers would have a record of like 10-4 if they were healthy, but they have been hit with the injury curse with a lot of their star players after the seasons or being out for a few more weeks uh, before returning. A really big piece of their offense that is missing is Christian McCaffrey. He injured his PCL last week against the Bills, and his season is likely over. The 49ers will also be without Trent Williams and most likely uh, Joey Bosa, with Joey Bosa being listed as doubtful. Those would be big pieces to have missing, but the Bears might be missing a few key pieces of their own, with DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift marked as questionable, only logging limited on Friday after being non-participant on Wednesday and Thursday. Now, let me say this. Back when we played the Commanders, Jaden Daniels only logged a limited practice and then on Friday, and then proceeded to play on Sunday and beat us. So I think the Bears should take that approach on Sunday, have them go through a pregame workout to determine if they can go or not. If they can't, they can't. But even if they could be out there for 60% of the snaps, it would help us. With the 49ers missing a lot of their key players, the Bears could actually pull out a win against the 49ers. And for an interim head coach to have beat Kyle Shanahan, that is cool to have on your resume. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears still somehow, you know, pull a bear and win and lose in last second fashion like they've done in recent weeks. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could happen. Um, but this is going to be a good game. Depending on if Swift plays or not, we might see Williams drop back to pass a lot on Sunday. You can take that as a good or bad thing. It is a good thing because Williams will run up his passing stats. It could be a bad thing because the more he drops back to pass, um, the more often he gets pressured and risks the possibility of getting injured. We are sure no Bears fans want that, but the 49ers have a very good defensive line. Even with their injury to Joey Bosa, they still have a lot of star power on that defensive line. According to footballdb.com, the 49ers allow 190 passing yards and 120 rushing yards a game to opposing offenses this year. It helps that the Bears have two great receivers, three if DJ Moore plays, and I have a good hunch that he will play, and a great tight end in Cole Kmet catching passes from Caleb Williams. And Kyle Shanahan did say about Caleb Williams, he's as talented as there is. He's as good of a thrower as there is, born to play the position, has the athletic ability to do whatever, and has the speed to do whatever. High praises from a great coach. I mean, I've never heard a coach like that say anything good about a previous Bears quarterback. So it definitely means a lot coming from him for sure. I am very excited to see how this game plays out for the Bears. Let's get into some score predictions before we get into the Ben Johnson information. Like I said earlier, the 49ers give up an average of 190 yards and passing and 120 yards rushing. But with them down a couple of important pieces on defense, I think a stat line of maybe 235 yards with 2 touchdowns would be a pretty good day for Caleb Williams and uh, the the passing offense. As for DeAndre Swift, assuming he plays, I think he could get somewhere around 85 rushing yards and maybe 25 receiving yards. As for defense, that's actually where it gets harder to predict for me because this will be Eric Washington's first time calling plays for the team and in his coaching career. So I'd be happy if the Bears got 3 sacks and an interception while allowing under 25 points. It might be hard with the passing attack that the 49ers have because they have George Kittle, they have Deebo Samuel, they have Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot of star-studded power on the 49ers offense, even with them losing uh, Christian McCaffrey. So, it's just going to be interesting to see how that goes. Now let's get into the stuff about Ben Johnson because he's everyone's favorite to become the Bears' next head coach. And when I say everyone's favorite, I mean the fans and actually some reporters. So he is definitely going to be looked at by the Bears. And yesterday during, or no, on Thursday during Thursday Night Football, during the pregame show, reporters said, according to Albert Breer, Lions OC has made it known that he will not chase interviews, but will only take one with the intent of taking the job. To do so, he needs organizational alignment between the head coach and GM and an assessment from the team as to what has gone wrong for them and how they'll fix it. Let's just get it out of the way, Bears fans. If Johnson is offered this job, he'd be stupid not to take it because the Bears are technically an 8-4 team right now. The only reason that our record is flipped is because of our bad coaching, and we were in all of our divisional games, and Johnson would inherit a roster with a QB for the future, a great trio of wide receivers in DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, who has expressed interest in coming back and running it back with Chicago another season. We'll see if Ryan Post does that because it all comes down to how much Keenan Allen wants and Rome Odunze and a top tight end in Cole Kmet, a good running back in DeAndre Swift. All Johnson has to do is rebuild this offensive line, get another edge rusher across from Montez Sweat, get a second running back to complement Swift because he runs that two-headed monster rushing attack with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery there in Detroit, and maybe draft a safety with Brisker having a lot of concussion problems. That's not a lot to fix. You could probably fix 3 out of those 4 things this offseason because you can get another edge in the draft. You can fix 2 positions on the offensive line in free agency and draft a position or 2 in the draft to develop. But this team will be able to compete next season. All we need is the right man at the wheel, and all Bears fans know that Johnson is that man. And I'm gonna play a clip from the Rich Eisen show where Tom Pelissero goes into things about how the Bears are looking at Ben Johnson right now. So let me pull that up on Twitter really quick and get that close to the speaker so you guys can hear it. So, okay.
Dialing up plays that Ben Johnson dialing up plays to beat the Packers is exactly what the Chicago Bears could use. Is he for that Ben Johnson dialing up plays to beat the Packers is exactly what the Chicago Bears could use? Is he, based on your thoughts, knowledge, information, the main target for the Bears, or there are other ones that they've got in mind right now, Tom?
I would say they're still in the early stages, Rich, of that process and doing research on a bunch of different candidates, both the ones that are the logical next man up type of guys, as well as some that people are not thinking about and may not just be a current NFL coordinator. However, as I mentioned on game day morning last week, absolutely I anticipate that Ben Johnson is going to be a person of interest in this search. It is going to be as much Ben Johnson selling himself to the Bears as much as it's going to be the Bears having to sell themselves to Ben Johnson. This is not a guy who's trying to get the perfect job, but he does want to make sure that there is alignment and the opportunity to have long-term success. You've got a quarterback there in Caleb Williams, who we have seen the flashes from. We've seen him play pretty good football. There is talent on the roster. They've got somewhere around $100 million in cap space, depending where the cap ends up landing next year. They've got extra draft picks. Remember, they still got Carolina's second rounder coming to them. And they've got, again, a quarterback that you can build around for years to come. There's a lot of pieces of the equation that are there, but, the Bears are going to be methodical in this process. And Ben Johnson is going to thoroughly analyze this. The reasons 2 years ago, David Tepper had a plane waiting to take him to Charlotte. He quite possibly was going to be offered and accept that job. Decided the night before, you know what? I don't feel good about it. His wife was expecting at the time. They loved Detroit. Ben had not been to the playoffs. He wanted to see that thing through with Dan Campbell. So he came back. Last year, he was a strong candidate for the Washington Commanders job, somebody that they were going to target. Going through the entire, the playoff run that they did, and then based on the cadence of how these interviews work, having to go and try to do an interview the day after the Lions had lost that game in San Francisco, he just decided this was not the right time for him either. Is this going to be the year? What I would tell you is Ben Johnson's in a much better place to make those decisions now. He is far further along in terms of the feeling of readiness to be a head coach. But he's also still happy in Detroit. He makes a good living. He loves the job there. He loves Dan Campbell, loves the city of Detroit, and wants to make another run. In other words, this is the rare guy, Rich, who's not just going to take a job because he wants a job so bad. He's already pulled back in each of the past two cycles. The only other guy in recent memory I can remember doing it this way on the head coaching side was D'Amico Ryans, who the Vikings wanted to bring in for a second interview when they ended up hiring Kevin O'Connell. And he, got the call and just said, I'm a one-year coordinator. I think I need a little bit more seasoning. I think I want to go back to San Francisco. He coached another year. He took the Texans job. They've had a lot of early success here. Ben doesn't need to take a job. He'll be a head coach in the NFL eventually. Is that in Chicago? There's a lot of reasons and a lot of dots you can connect to say that this potentially is going to be a match, but we may not have firm answers on that until we get into probably late January.
So, you guys heard it. Tom Pelissero, brought up a lot of good points. He talked about how, Johnson was a prominent option for a lot of head coaching jobs in recent years. Last year being the Commanders, and then the year before that being the Carolina Panthers, and how he said no, early or right before each of those teams were probably going to offer him the job. Now, let me be clear. I agree with him not taking the Panthers job because that roster was terrible 2 years ago, and it still kind of is. But also, when you look at the Commanders, that one was surprising for me because I thought that he was the shoe-in choice for that job. And I mean, I've said it multiple times on here with Jack that Dan Campbell or Dan, oh my God, Dan Quinn. I'm sorry, not Dan Campbell. Dan Quinn, definitely looks like a good choice now, because he's been able to build, star power staffs. But there are still very big question marks that are left on the board with, if Ben Johnson will, seriously consider the Bears job. Now, I'm hoping that he does, because this is probably one of the best jobs to get, in terms of how much of the roster is already filled. I mean, I already mentioned that you only have to fix the offensive line, an edge rusher, and maybe the maybe safety, but there's not a lot of pieces missing, and you could fix most of them in one off season. The one that you probably can't fix is the offensive line, because we're probably going to need 3 or 4 positions to be fully fully taken over by someone new. But it's there are 3 things that need to be considered when it comes to how if Ben Johnson will take this job. There's no doubt that it's the best coach opening this cycle, but the question is, will Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren, interview him, and will they like him? Because you have to make sure that the GM, the head coach, and the president kind of work in alignment. Like I said earlier, with the head coach and GM alignment, and we also have to consider, will George McCaskey like him? Because as much as we don't want him to be involved in the head coaching hire process, George McCaskey is the owner, and he needs to be, involved in some way, even if it's just, 1%, that 1% probably being who is the next head coach going to be. And the question, one of the biggest questions is, how much will Ben Johnson want? Because he's gonna demand a pretty hefty contract. For example, I would say that he is gonna want something around 5 years for $75 million. That's an average of $15 million per year. And I'll go into the top 5 paid head coaches for you. So number 1 is Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos at $18 million, which is totally warranted. Sean Payton is a great head coach. Number 2 is Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers at $16 million. Number 3 is Sean McVay at $14 million with the Los Angeles Rams. Number 4 is Mike Tomlin at $12.5 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and quite frankly, because of this year, I kind of think that's a little bit of an underpay, if I'm being honest. And then number 5 is Andy Reid at $12 million. So if we were to pay Ben Johnson $15 million, that would put him right at number 3, in between Jim Harbaugh and Sean McVay. And the question is, will George McCaskey pay that? Because we're still paying Matt Eberflus money for the next 2 years. And usually when that happens, they try to get a coach to come in a little cheaper. And I don't want that. I don't think any Bears fans want that, because the one thing that the Bears have never done is pay for coaching. And in order to win, you have to pay for coaching. And so, George McCaskey, if you somehow, get this, get uh, this video, or watching this video, um, you know, pay for the head coach to get it right this time, and bring in the offensive mastermind that everyone is talking about, and get your team back to a winning franchise. Because us as Bears fans, we've suffered enough in terms of the amount of losses that we've had. And that's, I mean, it's going to be a long process for before we find out the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. I mean, they're probably going to interview, I would say, anywhere from 8 to 12 candidates. Hopefully, most of the candidates being offensive-minded head coaches, because we need to maximize Caleb Williams' talent, and the only way to do that is to get offensive-minded head coach. I mean, Thomas Brown. Over the next 4 games, if you can, win. I mean, you or no, 5 games. I'm sorry. If you win, maybe. Well, you have to show that you can compete with this division, and that's really tough to do with how great the um, uh, Vikings, Lions, and Packers have been. I mean, I want to see a couple wins over the next 5 weeks, but the problem is I don't see us winning any games against our divisional opponents, just because of how uh, star-studded they are and how much firepower they have on offense. And this is not me saying that we don't have star power or firepower on offense. We do. It's just we had such a incompetent play caller and such an incompetent coaching staff that it took that, even though we should be 8-4 right now, we're 4-8 because of stupid coaching mistakes. I mean, if you got Ben Johnson, if Ben Johnson was here right now, we probably would be 8-4. I would say, and maybe even better than that. I mean, I just hope that that's the decision that they come to, and ultimately hire Ben Johnson. The problem is, most likely, if you do want to hire him, you'll have to wait until after at least the NFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl, because I mean, the Lions are 12-1 right now, and I mean, I don't know if I could see them losing another game until the playoffs, and even that is a question mark, because I personally believe that the the um uh the um the Lions would give the Eagles quite a fight, and I'm very excited to see that matchup, because I believe it's going to be the uh, the uh, the uh, the Lions and the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And the Eagles have been playing great lately too, so it's going to be a good matchup, and I am very excited to see that, if that is what the matchup is, and it should be. But we'll see how that goes, because I mean, we still have 4 weeks left of football before we get to playoffs. But I mean, I believe the Eagles are 10-2. Actually, let me look that up to confirm. Um, 2024. They are 10-2 this season, so they're only one game behind the Lions. So it would definitely make the most sense to see them in the NFC Championship game. I am definitely I'm rooting for the Lions because I want them to do good. They haven't done good in so long that I'm very happy that the Eagles are 11-1 right now. But it's but part of me wants the Lions to be kicked out by the Eagles because I want to hire Ben Johnson. But then there's the possibility of him going back with the Lions until he wins the Super Bowl. I don't know if that's how it happens, but that could happen. I think that's going to be it for today. This is Grant Winsauer of the Bear Claw Cast, signing off for you guys. We will be back on Monday to give you our reaction to the Bears versus 49ers game. Jack will most likely be back. And if he's not ready yet on Monday, I might push it back, a day or two just to make sure that he's fully healthy before he comes back on. He just woke up. He just woke up not feeling well today, so I'm sure he'll be back. But if he's not, I'm gonna push it back until he's well enough to come on. He just told me that since we always do a pregame episode, do the pregame episode today. And I couldn't really push it back because we play tomorrow. So that's gonna be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy week 14 of Football Sunday. And if any of you guys watch the Cowboys versus Bengals game, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be a great game. And just a piece of advice: if you watch that game, the Cowboys versus the Bengals game, do not watch it on Disney Plus. Just watch it on ESPN. It's going to be better to actually see the players, as themselves and not Simpson characters. So, enjoy your football weekend, everybody.